Hey, I'm Jusko from ProbableMoney.com. In this video, we are going to look at credit cards versus buy now, pay later services like Afterpay, Affirm, Klarna, a little bit of what PayPal does, and other things of that nature. But first, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not already, and if you have already, I thank you for doing so. So my mind was blown the other day when I saw that Square was buying the buy now, pay later service Afterpay for $29 billion. Now it's $29 billion in stock, but it's still stock worth $29 billion. I had to pick a piece of my skull right up from my lap and put it back in place. I was so amazed because these buy now, pay later companies really aren't doing anything that is all that innovative. It is basically installment financing, something that has been around forever. And so it's very interesting to see, by sort of putting maybe a little bit of a different spin on something like that and gaining some market share, you can get yourself $29 billion from Silicon Valley. Now, that doesn't mean I am knocking Afterpay or any of these buy now, pay later businesses. They are a completely legitimate form of financing. They're just nothing new. So in this video, I thought I would look at them versus credit card companies. And what's interesting right now with the credit card companies is a lot of them maybe seeing a competitive threat, maybe seeing another way to get people to buy things that they wouldn't normally with their credit cards. They're sort of rolling out their own buy now, pay later within the credit card account. So they are also getting into the mix, and that's kind of how this stuff always works. If someone's having some success, then the other people copy it, and then everything kind of blurs together. All right, so let's talk about how the concept of buy now, pay later works. Each of these buy now, pay later companies are a little bit different, but for the most part, they work in the same way. You buy something and then you pay it off in equal installments. You may or may not pay interest on those purchases depending on which service you are using. But let's say, as an example, you decide to buy $160 worth of Crocs and those cute little gibbets, and you use Afterpay. Well, the way that Afterpay works is you would pay 1/4 of your purchase up front. So $160, you'd pay $40 up front, and then 2 weeks later, you would pay another quarter of it, another $40. So now you've paid $80, you've paid half. 2 weeks later, another $40. 2 weeks after that, the other $40. Over a 6-week period, you have made 4 payments of $40 each. You've paid off the complete $160 purchase. You have not paid any interest on that purchase. If you perchance did not pay on time, you could potentially have some late fees with that purchase, but really Afterpay is not so much in the late fees market, or that's not really their business model so much. They are really sort of getting money from the merchants because they have facilitated a sale that perhaps would not have happened otherwise, or they have sort of facilitated a sale that would be bigger. Maybe you wouldn't have spent a whole $160 on Crocs and gibbets, although maybe you would have. Now, other buy now, pay later companies might work it a little differently. Affirm, for example, which has a name very much like Afterpay, which makes it a little confusing, but Affirm does it a little bit different. So you might have some 0% financing where you pay in equal installments and then you pay it all off and you don't have to pay anything. But you also have some situations where you pay something off over 6 months, 9 months, 12 months or whatever, and they charge you anywhere from 10% to 30% interest, but you pay it off in equal installments. So in those cases, you would pay some interest. You wouldn't have any late fees or any fees on top of it, but you would pay some interest. So it's almost like, a personal loan, or even like a, car loan or mortgage for your Crocs and gibbets. So there's no futuristic innovation here. There's no OMG, why did I not think of this business? It's buying on credit and doing it in an installment way, something that has existed forever. So why has buy now, pay later become so popular all of a sudden? Well, it may be something that is sort of cyclical or generational, where younger people haven't really had buy now, pay later as an option to them. So if you're someone that is newer to credit and getting a credit card is perhaps difficult for you, that could be a reason that you go with buy now, pay later instead, because there may not be a credit check. There may not be any sort of credit involved at all in terms of how the payment plan or the installment plan is set up. So you go to buy something, and right there at checkout there is the Afterpay logo or Affirm or whoever, and they say you can spread out your payments, pay over 6 weeks instead of having to pay it all at once. We won't do a credit check, all that good stuff. And so you basically get instant approval that you can use instantly, which some credit cards might give you that, but it's more of a process and you don't know for sure if you're going to get approved. Now, the ability to stretch out a payment over a longer period of time might make you overspend, just like the popular criticism of credit cards. So with Afterpay or Affirm or any of these other ones, you still could buy things that you can't afford today with the idea that you think you can afford them over the next 6 weeks or more. So it is still the same situation that they are doing. In some cases, they're even putting themselves sort of in between the person and the credit card company, because with Afterpay, for example, you can pay your Afterpay payment with your credit card, which basically is almost like paying a credit card with a credit card, which is maybe why Capital One won't let you use a Capital One credit card with Afterpay. Now, while these buy now, pay later companies might give you instant access to a payment plan and at a 0% rate, in many cases what they don't usually do is report to the credit bureaus. Some of them may, but oftentimes they are not going to, unless it is negatively if you don't make one of your payments. In addition, you're not going to have rewards with these buy now, pay later companies either, so you're not going to get 1% or 2% or more back on any of your purchases. I know Klarna has a very small rewards program, but it's really peanuts when compared to the best credit cards out there. All right, so let's look at credit cards closer and see how those compare and contrast. So you go to get a credit card. Sometimes you can get approved and use that credit card right away. Sometimes you get approved and you got to wait for the card to show up in the mail. If you are newer to credit, you apply for a credit card, you're not even quite sure if you are going to get approved or not. So there's a little mystery in there. So that already is going to make some people say, well, I'm not going to apply. What if I don't even get the card? It's just a big pain in my butt. If I don't already have credit, I can't get credit. What kind of system is this? Now, once you get that credit card, no one is looking out for you. You get a credit limit. You can charge all the way up to the very top of it, at least usually. So you can get yourself into a good amount of debt right away. And when the bill comes, they say you only have to make this minimum payment, which is a very small percentage of what you have actually charged. Now, it wouldn't be very smart to only pay that minimum payment, because you're going to have a 15 to 20% interest rate or more on that credit card. So if you only make that minimum payment, you can keep doing that month after month after month, and that interest can just keep building and building and building, and you've got yourself a real problem on your hands. No one's going to say, hey, we're going to pay off this credit card bill in 6 equal monthly installments. They are just going to tack on that interest. You're going to pay 15, 20, 25% more than what the actual cost of the goods was. So if you don't have the discipline, credit cards can really get you in trouble. On the other hand, credit cards have some real potential advantages. Number one, if you pay off your balances in full, every month you will never pay any interest. You only pay interest on what revolves from one month to the next. So if you didn't pay off the full bill, then you'll pay interest in the following month. But as long as you pay off the full bill, you will never pay interest regardless of what the interest rate is. So if you have that discipline, you get the other advantages of credit cards. Number one, or maybe number two in this list, is the fact that you have credit card rewards. Even new card holders, oftentimes new to credit people, can get 1% at the beginning, and as they get further into their credit history, they can get 2% or more on all of their purchases across the board. Next, you have the fact that you are building a credit history with a credit card. So as long as you are making those payments on time, that's getting reported to the major credit bureaus, and that is helping you build a credit file, which is going to help you in the future when you want an auto loan, you want a mortgage, you want other credit cards. You're going to get approved, number one, and number two, you're going to get better interest rates. And then finally, in my mind, credit cards give you a lot more flexibility than something like an Afterpay or Affirm. You can use a credit card pretty much everywhere. If you have a Visa, MasterCard, those are pretty much going to go almost anywhere in the whole world. So you're not just buying your Crocs and Gibbets. You can be paying for gas. You can pay for restaurant purchases. You can pay at the grocery store. All these different places wherever you happen to go during the day, where most of these buy now, pay later companies are more restricted to retailers where you're buying hard goods. Now that last point actually is not totally true because as I said at the beginning of this video, there's always this blurring of the lines. So a company like Afterpay, for example, will get a foothold in one area and then try to expand into a whole lot of other areas, which is probably part of the reason Square wanted to buy them for so much money. So one of the things that Afterpay already does is they have an app and they basically say if you want to use us somewhere else, well then use the app, and if tap and pay is available and you can use your phone, well then you can pay that way. And so then that expands how Afterpay can be used as well. So we have Afterpay sort of trying to go into the places where credit cards are, and then we have the credit card companies kind of going the other way and coming up with all these buy now, pay later schemes within the credit card account. So then you have your regular purchases and then you have your buy now, pay later purchases that might have a set interest rate and installment payments. So it all kind of blurs together. So which is better, credit cards or buy now, pay later? I don't think there's a hard and fast answer to that question. I think it depends on your needs, your psychology, what makes sense for you. I prefer credit cards. I know I'm going to pay them off in full each month, so I'm never going to pay interest. I want the rewards that I can get from credit cards that I can't get from those buy now, pay later situations. I don't really like the idea of installment spending so much because I'd rather just pay off the whole thing when I actually make the purchase instead of it being this thing that sort of lives on for 4 to 6 weeks or even longer. So for me, none of that is very attractive. On the other hand, I have a very long credit history, and so when I want a new credit card, I know I can get it. If I were someone newer to credit and it seemed like it was difficult to be getting my first credit card or getting a decent credit line, I could see how I might be frustrated and go for one of these buy now, pay later companies instead. Because I think the main attractions of buy now, pay later are two. Number one, ease of approval. You can usually get your hands on what you want a lot faster without there being a whole lot of paperwork or waiting for some sort of approval and maybe not even being able to use it immediately. So that immediacy, that instant approval aspect is going to be attractive to people. Number two, that installment loan schedule where you have to pay a certain amount every certain number of weeks or number of months. That is something that for some people it is enforced discipline. Now still they could not pay it, no one's going to force them to, and the police aren't going to come to their door, but for some people the psychology of it saying I have to pay X amount on this day and then this day and then this day makes them feel like they have it a little more under control than with a credit card where they're saying you get $1,000 or $1,500 or potentially way more, and you can spend as much of it as you want and you can pay it off at the end of the month or not. For some people that is way too much freedom and they don't have the discipline to handle that, especially when they are new to credit. So the buy now, pay later installment plan makes more sense for them. But again, buy now, pay later, no rewards. It may or may not help you build credit depending on how it is structured, and you still have the ability to buy more than what you would have if you had simply bought in cash. That $160 in Crocs and Jibbitz might have only been $80 in Crocs and Jibbitz if it had to come out of your pocket. So the idea of buy now, pay later, Afterpay, Affirm, even PayPal, and all these others that are out there is no revolution. It's nothing that hasn't been around forever. It has its advantages and disadvantages, just like credit cards have their advantages and disadvantages. Now, Square obviously saw something there to put $29 billion of its stock toward, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is new. It means that Afterpay is one of the leaders in a place where more younger people in particular are deciding to use that type of payment plan versus getting credit cards. Questions, comments, thoughts? If you've used buy now, pay later and credit cards, what do you like or dislike about each one of them? I would love to hear all of it in that comment section below. Otherwise, I thank you for watching, and as always, please go to proudmoney.com where we do credit card reviews and we talk personal finance and we talk deals and all sorts of other fun stuff too. Thanks for watching. Bye.